Mesillat Yesharim. We're continuing the third chapter. We're just starting the third chapter actually. Perek Shalishi talks about Be'ur Chelkei HaZehirut. It talks about, in the second chapter we talk about the essence of the trait of vigilance, right? Of being careful in your mitzvot. Now we're talking about the different elements that this vigilance, this being careful with your mitzvot, has to offer. 1 second. Okay, so here he starts out the third chapter. If someone wants to monitor himself, to be able to be careful in his mitzvot, what should he do? Up a chair. It says there are two types of assessments a person can have to be able to monitor your ways. Like we were talking about monitoring your ways and paying attention and using your intellect to make decisions. Number one is you have to contemplate, you have to think and identify the true good that man should choose. What is the true good? Right now I'm about to make a decision, this is good, this is bad. You have to think before you make a decision what's good and bad. That's one way of contemplating, of assessing your ways. And it says, and you have to know what the true evil is so you can run away from it. You have to be able to differentiate between good and evil. And the second way of assessment, it has to do with your actions, the deeds that you do. To be able to see if they are included in this good category or in this evil category. So number one, you have to focus on, right now I'm about to make a decision. Is this decision going to be good or is this decision going to be towards evil? And then in the longer run, before you go to bed at night, you're supposed to think to yourself, now what did I do today? Were my actions today in the good or were my actions today in the evil? And it could be that there's some over here and some over there, and the goal is to try to put everything into the good. That's the goal. By doing this, you pull yourself away from sinning much more because you're always contemplating good or bad. Obviously, you don't have to overthink it. It's not like, oh, right now I thought, should I have this coffee, should I not have this coffee? But if I have it, it's sinning. No, you drink. You eat, you eat. But with the bigger decisions in life, the things that are important to you, right now you're about to go and do something. You're about to go and eat something. Should I eat this? Oh, but I had meat. Am I allowed to have this right now? Whatever. It was a few hours. Is it a big deal? I don't know. Whatever. And now you're about to make a decision. You have to think to yourself. Take yourself back for a second and observe it from the outside. And contemplate in your mind. Is right now, this would be in the good category or this would be in the bad category? And if it's in the good, do it. And if it's in the bad, don't do it. Very simple. Not only in the time of when you're about to perform an action, but also in the time when you're not about to perform an action. Bishad Maaseh, he says, when you're about to perform an action, says you can't do any action before you weigh it on the scales of knowledge. You weigh it and you understand, is this what I'm about to do good or not? And Vishalo Bishad Maaseh, he says, and the actions the things that not at the time of your actions, saying that this zehirut, what it requires is that a person calls to his mind his past actions, his past deeds. And you should weigh those past actions on this knowledge scale. So meaning, whenever you're about to perform something, you weigh it on a scale. Right now, will this action I'm about to do leave my scale more good or more bad? And if it pulls more good down, then you should do it. And if you're about to think of something, not necessarily an action, let's say it's just something. And how do you determine if that's good or bad? You look back in the past to some time where you may have seen someone do that or you may have done that in the past, and you use that same scale again. Now, of course, you need the right hashkafa, you need the right assessment to understand what's good and what's bad. A person who's a moron, he may decide what's bad is actually good and what's good is actually bad. You gotta have the right assessment to know what's good and bad, which will come over time after learning more Torah. But simply you have to have this scale in mind every time you want to make decisions. He's saying, to see what has evil, so you can push it away. We don't want to perform evil. What contains the good, so you can go at it and continue doing those things. If you record, if you measure and you put it on the scale each and every time you want to make these kind of decisions, you will end up always choosing the good path. Because you'll remind yourself, last time I did this and this was good, I'm going to do this again. Yesterday, I put on a scale, should I wake up for minyan or should I not wake up for minyan? I know waking up for minyan is very good, it's better than the bad. So I'm going to wake up for minyan. Then the next day you're thinking, should I wake up? You don't need to rescale it. Why? You go back to your previous time that happened, and now you're like, oh, I scaled it already. Now it's good already. I know it's good. And it doesn't. You don't have a decision anymore. You're like, why wouldn't I wake up? Why wouldn't you wake up? You want to choose between good and bad. Understand? It's like someone comes to you and says, here, I'll give you $100, I'll give you $0. Which one do you prefer? $100. Hashem's offering you to fulfill mitzvot. Do you want to fulfill the mitzvah and receive the great reward or not? Up to you. You can choose. It says, Ve'imi matzeh behem minara. And if you find that in some of your actions, you have bad, God forbid. Az itbonen v'yachkor b'sichlo. Then you should contemplate and explore in your mind, which tactic you have to do to get out of that bad and to purify yourself from it. What tactic can you do to get rid of that evil? We all have some bad inside of us. We all have something. We all have Yetzirah. We all have some evil to pull us towards the evil side. The question is now, how do we overcome that? Right? We were talking about the only way to fight and overcome the Yetzirah in the previous chapter. We said was to use your sechel, was to use your intellect, your mind. And when you think to do what's good over what's bad, you'll be able to overcome the Yetzirah. Why? Because the Yetzirah's job is to try to keep you very busy so you don't have time to use your mind. The longer he keeps you busy for, the more time in life you waste and he doesn't give you time. That's what happened with Paro, right? Paro kept the Jewish people busy. He kept putting more and more busy work on them for no reason, so they wouldn't have time to think. Because if they had time to think, they could have thought of a plan to get out of it, to escape, to fight Paro. He didn't want that. The Yetzirah is trying to make us super busy. So what we have to do is, our goal is to use our minds to get out of this evil. Says the Chachamim told us this in the Gemara. Noach lo la'adam shelo nivra yoter mishenivra. Listen to this Gemara. The Gemara says, it would have been more pleasant for a person had he not been created rather than if he had been created. Meaning, it was better for us before we were created than it was now when we're created. But now that you're created, go look in your actions and see what you need to fix. Meaning, now that you're ready in this world, and we're, in the previous world, before we came to this world, it was much better. We came to this world, that's why, when the baby comes to this world, he's crying. Everyone's happy. Why is everyone happy? They got a new creation into the world, but he's upset, he left the best world. Right? And then what happens at the end of the baby's life? He's lying down, he's going back to the best world, he's happy, he's smiling. Everyone else is crying, they're losing someone. So you understand, that world is so much greater. Even the human being who comes to the world and leaves the world knows that. Like subconsciously. And the idea is, now that we're in this world, though, we have to work on ourselves. We have to fix ourselves. Look what you need to fix. So some say you should literally feel your actions, your deeds, which literally means the same thing. You should look into your actions and see what's missing and see what you need to fix. Right? And he says here, he says these two versions of what he brought in the Gemara are two amazing, extremely beneficial warnings, let's say. To search or to feel your actions. What does that mean? He says, Kihine hapishpush ma'asim, someone who's searching his actions, hu lachkor al klal ha'ma'asim leitbonen bo. It's to examine your actions and to contemplate them. That's what it means to search. And he says, hanimsa bahem ma'asim asher lo ya'asu. Says to determine whether you have actions that shouldn't be done. That's searching. One version is that you should search your actions, to choose, to contemplate, are these actions that I'm doing good or these actions I'm doing not so good? These things maybe that you're doing may not be going in the ordinances of God and His laws and the command of Hashem, what He wants from us, it may not be. And he says, any such actions you find and you search and you found in yourself, you should uproot them and destroy them from yourself completely. Don't let them stay inside you. Anytime you find something evil inside you, anytime you find something, you feel like something's wrong with you, I'll give you an example. I'm sure you're all wondering what kind of example you can think of, because we all think we're perfect and nobody thinks of any problems inside themselves. I agree. We all think like that. Let's say someone wronged them. They did something wrong to them. They embarrassed them, let's say. Now, what is your initial feeling? You have some type of hatred towards that person. There's some type of, I want to get back at that person. As for shalom, you're not allowed to. You have some feeling inside you, like you don't want to help that person now. So now, the goal is to uproot that from yourself. Now, what do you have to do? When that comes to hand, that you're possible to help that person that you really don't want to help, you should go out of your way and do something completely extra that's not needed to uproot that feeling of grudge or feeling of revenge that you have inside you. Why? To teach yourself subconsciously how important it is to have ahavat chinam, to just love each and every Jew no matter what, and to understand that the parable that everyone here is just a shaliach. Really, Hashem brings all the punishment just to test us. So when someone embarrasses you or someone hurts you, it's not really that person. It's like there's a guy who has a dog. He goes to his dog and he starts hitting the dog. Bad dog. He starts hitting him and hitting him. Finally, he throws a stick on the floor. The dog, what does he do? He starts chasing the stick and starts biting the stick and eating it and killing it. And the owner's standing there like, it's a chamor ata. You're so stupid. Why are you eating the stick? I was the one hitting you. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking down at us saying, someone embarrassed you. You think it was him? No, I'm testing you from upstairs. I was hitting you with the stick. Why are you getting mad at him? Come talk to me about it. Maybe you have to check your action. Maybe something's wrong and I'm trying to wake you up and I'm trying to test you. Right? That's the whole point. So don't think that person wronged you. It's him. It's not him. He's a shaliach. Hashem sent him to test you. That's how you have to believe. And so now you have to uproot that feeling from inside you. That's what he's saying over here. Guys, if you have any questions in the middle, please interrupt me. Whatever you want to talk.
Wait, I have a question
Yes,
in regards to that. So you're saying we should forgive them, but what if it's something you don't want them to do again to you?
Okay, good. So now we're getting into specific details. So again, it's very important that a person who wrongs should go and request salicha, has to go and apologize and genuinely apologize. Not I'm sorry, bye. Like Yom Kippur, sorry. Messages everyone sent, broadcast messages to everyone. I'm so sorry for anything I possibly did this year. And he killed someone. I'm so sorry I killed you. What? That's not an apology. You have to go apologize genuinely. So a person genuinely has to go and apologize. If a person doesn't, if a person really wrongs you, you don't have a requirement necessarily to forgive them if they don't apologize to you, if they don't come and request forgiveness from you. But it's definitely a good thing to do. It's definitely not good to hold something hatred inside your heart. Especially the Chafetz Chaim, he writes in his sefer that you should always uproot any hatred you have towards any other Jew or even other people necessarily. So as not to have that feeling of hatred. Hatred is a terrible feeling, right? But yeah, if someone wrongs you, the correct thing to do is to maybe go over them in a different time and talk to them and say, hey, look, you did this type of thing. I'm not upset anymore. I forgive you for it regardless. I just want you to know that hurt me, and so that we don't go through that again in the future. And I think that's the manly thing to do. It's very hard, but that's the strongest thing to do. Okay, and he says here, Achashimush, but the other language of feeling your actions. What does that mean? That's examination of even your good deeds. You examine even your good actions. To see if there's any improper motives inside your actions. Anything that it's not so proud. You don't have such a good intention while doing it. So that's the two languages of the Gemara. He's making the Ramchal, who's a Gaon. He made a huge translation of these two Gemarot. Why it brought two different languages. And he says here, or any bad component, let's say, that's involved in a person's even good actions that you may need to uproot from yourself as well. Let's say a person is he's trying to feel his garment, right? You want to feel inside your clothing to see if something's messed up or something's wrong. There's a thread sticking out. You can feel it. Something's messed up. Same thing with your actions. You feel your actions. You feel, okay, yeah, the clothing is 99% good, but there's one thread sticking out. I feel it. Let me get that thread out. Let me fix that thread. Same thing with your midot, your actions. Livchon hatov vechazaku o chalashu baloi. To examine whether it's good and strong or weak and worn out. You have to examine these things in all of your actions. Ken yamashmesh ma'asav. So too with regards to someone's actions. Right? He was talking about the clothing. You feel it to see what's missing. Same thing with your actions. Livchon techunatam betachlit ahavchana. To examine their nature in the most righteous examination. Ad shishaer zach venaki. So that you're left clean of all sin entirely. Right? So the idea here. Let's go back from the beginning. We said earlier, the way to overpower and overcome the Yetzer Hara is through your intellect, it's through your mind, through thinking. When you use your mind, you make yourself not an animal anymore, right? Because the animals don't use their mind. The animals don't choose between good and bad. They don't know that. So you use your mind, you make yourself better than the animal. That's what we're created for. By doing that, you now have a chance to overcome the Yetzer Hara. Without using your mind, you have no chance. You have no chance. So we said, number one, you need to use your mind. Number two, you need the help of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. These are the two things. And the Ramchal said that once you use your mind to do good, Hashem will come and help you as well. Right? Very clearly. Now what he's saying is, after you've already gone through this contemplation process, day in, day out, you start thinking to yourself before you go to bed at night, you start thinking, what did I do today? Is what I did good? What I said today to someone, did I hurt him, did I not? You contemplate. That's why if you see certain people, they're very careful how they speak. There's people who sit in the corner of the room and they're never talking and they look like the smartest guy because they never talk. They're very careful with their speech because each and every word, it can change someone's life drastically to the good or to the bad, and you have to be very careful how to use it. Okay? So he says, Klal davar. This is the general rule. A person should always analyze on his actions and monitor all of his ways. You have to monitor your ways. Don't leave yourself any bad habits or negative traits. Try to get all these bad habits and negative traits out. And obviously it's difficult. It takes time. One by one though you have to try. And he says here, Kol sheken avera v'pesha. How much more so someone who's sinning or someone who's transgressing against Hashem, you should definitely have to uproot that from yourself. Again, he's talking about things that may be, bad character traits or bad intentions and stuff like that. How much more so things that are completely wrong, like stealing or things along the lines of sinning and stuff like that are definitely incorrect. We're going to go 1-2 more minutes and we'll finish off. He says, I see need for a person to examine and evaluate your actions day in, day out, every single day. It's not a one-time thing, it's not a weekly thing, every single day, he says. Big businessmen, merchants, what do? They're always monitoring all their operations, all their deals, all their things. They're checking to make sure everything's in order, nothing's misplaced, and everything's there. Why? Because if one thing's wrong, everything's broken. Like a guy who's a traveler, he travels for, let's say, jewelry, for example. He carries with him, let's say, a bag of heavy jewelry, 1,000 pieces. He gets to the store, he opens it up, 999 there. You would think, 99% are there. 99% are there. There's one piece missing. He has to pay $1,000 on that piece. So every little thing, same thing with our midot. Every day, day in, day out, you have to check to make sure all of your actions are in place. Everything is the right way it should be. Leman lo yitkalkelu, so they don't break down. Veikba itim v'sha'od lazeh. You have to set times and hours for this analysis. I think the smartest thing to do before you go to bed, 2 minutes, 120 seconds. You think today, what did I do today? For the first 60 seconds, what did I do today? You do a quick recap on your whole day. The next 60 seconds, did I do something wrong? How do I fix it? If you find nothing's wrong, come talk to me because something's probably messed up. We all make mistakes. It's impossible to be able to say that. And you shouldn't feel guilty about it. You should feel happy that now you're paying attention to the mistakes you make and you want to change them. And that's the important part. And now you want to make yourself a better person. That's the idea. One more line. You don't want it to be a temporary analysis. You want it to be permanent. Something every single day. Rather very regular. Saying you can gain a lot of benefits from doing this daily check for 60 seconds, 120 seconds, day in, day out, every night before you go to bed, just contemplating on your actions. Thinking about what you did today. Just by thinking about it, you don't know how much you can accomplish just by your thoughts. It's really unbelievable.